And we are live on OC Rock Radio. We are on Facebook Live. See, guys, I took the live on Facebook Live out because it didn't make sense. I'd been saying it for like 3 weeks. So I took that out. If you haven't noticed, we have a third guest in the studio today. Alex Silva. You've seen him on the show. Well, you haven't seen him on the show before, but you've heard him on the show before. So, Alex, welcome back to the show. Are you excited to be here?
I'm very excited to be here. First time to be camera ready for anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a big deal. So
we got the makeup and everything.
Did my hair.
No, yeah, we did. If you guys don't notice, we did.
Get the pump. Yeah, so it's good to be here.
I, of course, don't need makeup to be on this show.
Absolutely not.
Because you just I call myself photogenic.
Too pretty.
Exactly. You guys should have seen when I did my pre-show thing for to promote the podcast. I had my hair out. I was like, it's not good. It's not a good hair day. I'm putting the hat back on. I tried it out. It's one hair's going this way, another hair's going that way. But yeah, Alex, welcome back to the show. You are live on Facebook Live for the first time ever. Why don't you tell us what we're going to be talking about in this first segment today?
I think we're going to be talking about the big news that's coming out in baseball with the Manny Machado signing.
Yes.
I think we have to talk about
Manny Machado signing with the San Diego Padres. Who knew, right? We heard them as a kind of dark horse to sign him, and it kind of comes out of nowhere all of a sudden yesterday morning. $300 million, 10 years.
Big money.
Right on the dime. Highest contract ever, $25 more million than A-Rod's. I believe back in 2007 with your Yankees.
Yeah, it was 2007 when he renegotiated, yeah.
Yeah, so biggest deal in history. We assume Bryce Harper will probably get a bigger contract as far as more money per year. But as far as 10 years, $30 million, that's the biggest ever. So thoughts, guys? This is the biggest news we've seen in baseball this offseason. Jared and I have debated heavily about this topic for a while now. And now Machado finally picks his team, and it's a team that has not made the playoffs for a while now. So, what are your guys' first initial thoughts on this whole Manny Machado signing?
Well, you kind of said it when you said dark horse signing.
Yeah.
Like I when I saw the Padres on that hunt, I was like, this is them kind of trying to, or the agent trying to move the annual value up, or just kind of a negotiating tactic to get more money out of the White Sox. I think everyone thought the White Sox were going to be the main player on this deal, and then they signed him.
No, exactly.
So I guess the California tax is not a deterrent for
No,
these big
you know what I heard
contracts.
about that tax too? The tax, apparently he's going to have to pay us California residents $40 million of his salary. So thank you, Manny Machado, for building bridges and fixing roads and all this stuff. Yeah, that is a big thing with signing with teams in California. It's not just a Southern California thing; it's a whole California thing. So sign Giants, A's, Padres, Angels, Dodgers. You are going to get that higher tax, so you probably want a higher salary. But yeah, so he goes to the Padres. Jared, I want to get your take on this too. What do you think initially about this Manny Machado signing?
So I kind of heard the rumblings from both of you guys as far as the dark horse, and all that. And for me, I think it comes down to, I was surprised that he did not go to a bigger market like New York. Not saying that Boston was in the picture, but just something like that. Going to San Diego, they've been so irrelevant in the last, decade.
That's true.
That for them to get this type of signing, and like you guys, and like we're going to get into, you guys feel like this team is kind of on the rise. And I didn't necessarily see it coming, so maybe my eyes just weren't open to it with their prospects and their farm system and all that stuff, which you guys will get into. But I think this kind of catapults this team to legitimacy in the NL West a little bit. And obviously the Dodgers are still there, but with the Diamondbacks kind of tanking, this division is kind of up for grabs. And so I think the Padres have catapulted themselves into that conversation of legitimate winning now, right? And for me, like I said, it's been a long time since this team has had those types of expectations. Now, will Manny Machado get them over the hump? I'm not so sure. We saw last year in the World Series that he was kind of non-existent. So, can he lead this team and carry them on his shoulders all by himself? $30 million a year for 10 years says that he should. Will he do that? I'm just not so sure.
Yeah. No, and to be more specific on the deal, he does have an opt-out after his 5th year. So essentially he's only really signed for like 5 years, and of his choice he could stay. It's not like the NBA where you have a bunch of player options in a row if he does choose to stay with the Padres after that 5th year, he's with them for another 5 years. So he's in there for the long haul. Let's say the World Series contender, I'd see him going for that. But yeah, so 5 years officially. That's still a long time though, because the Padres now have a bunch of guys signed, up for a lot of years. And I think I saw some stat that said, I didn't write it down for some reason, but it was Padres up until like the 2022 season have $548 million on par paying guys, and the Dodgers have $8 million. So not trying to compare the two teams necessarily, but you see where they're going with let's spend for now, and the Dodgers are kind of going, we have prospects, let's figure it out. It's a different strategy for sure. So Alex, I want to open this up for you. Do you think this kind of strategy will work? You look at the prospects, you've done your research. What do you think about this Padres team now and also for the future?
It's a big assumption that I've done my research. But to kind of like marry your guys' points of, Jared bring up like this depth of prospects they have, and you would like how they have so many guys signed for so long and the guaranteed 5 years. I think that 5-year opt-out is huge because you have all these guys that are going to be coming up, the prospects that are under team control for 6 years, and you have Manny Machado for 5 years. You have your window. We've now established what the San Diego Padres window is going to be. Mm-hmm. And when, let's say Manny Machado opts out, now you have the money to re-sign those prospects if they hit. Or you can trade them and get newer guys and keep Machado. So that it gives them this really good window, and it's with the potential for more later on. So I think that's a great move. I like it. I like they're investing not only – they're kind of betting on their young guys to hit by giving this anchor with a number 3 hitter.
Yeah.
No too much pressure on any one guy to come up like, hey, you have to be the guy. We got a guy. You guys develop at the right pace.
They got a lot of guys too, because you look at it. They have solid catchers in Austin Hedges and Francisco Mejia, who is their number 4 prospect, number 26 overall in the MLB. Hosmer at first base, standalone guy. Second base, Ian Kinsler probably for this year, and then eventually it will turn into Luis Urias, who is their number 3 prospect. Shortstop, Manny Machado, and then eventually Fernando Tatis, who's the number 2 prospect in all of Major League Baseball.
Kid's kind of good.
Yeah, kind of good, I'd say. Third base, eventually I think will be Manny Machado for the long haul. And then the outfield rounds out with Will Myers, Manuel Margot, and Hunter Renfroe, who was a first-round pick for them a while back out of, I believe it was Mississippi State, correct? I can't remember exactly. But so they have a lot of good hitters. Now, pitching-wise, besides the top prospect, there's nobody. I mean, you look at this is the worst starting staff in the MLB. I'm not kidding. I don't know a single name, and I'm a baseball guy. I mean, I think it's Luis Perdomo is the only guy I can think of. I think the guy's had an ERA above 6 every year. So there's really nobody. Now, they do have Mackenzie Gore, who is the number 15 prospect overall in the MLB. But other than that, a bunch of Alex is laughing because he's looking at the roster right now for the starting pitcher.
I'm trying to help him.
It's horrible.
Listen, real quick, list some names of the current starters besides listing Mackenzie.
Eric Lauer, Robbie.
No. Go back to that first one.
Joey Lucchesi.
It sounds like a sub.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to butcher your name.
Yeah, it sounds like a deli. A deli in New York. So their starting pitcher is.
Yeah,
It's nobody. It's guys that I have not heard of. I think I've heard of Robbie Erlin. That's about it. But so they need pitching help. Now the good thing is they have five pitching prospects beside Mackenzie Gore in the top 100 in the MLB. So they do sort of have trade bait. Jade, you're gonna ask me a question.
We're talking about. We understand that they have pitching, and we're not even talking about like their bullpen or their closing. Does this starting pitching like hinder them? What do they do? Do you see what you have with these guys and see if they can produce? Do you like kind of try to look for trade bait immediately? Do you wait till the All-Star break? Like if you guys are the GM of this team and you have control, what are you doing to upgrade this starting pitch? Because we know how bad it is. But like when do you make that big signing to bring in someone else to complement the rest of this team?
I mean, if you look at the lineup, even when we were talking about, lineup isn't even that. I mean, it's Hedges, it's Kinsler, it's Hosmer, it's Machado. A lot of those prospects aren't even official starters yet. So this team is not a World Series contender this year. It doesn't matter if they sign Manny Machado.
So don't just jump on the bandwagon right away.
No, I mean, Manny Machado, like you mentioned, wasn't even the Dodgers didn't win the World Series with him in a stacked roster. So why would the Padres win with him and a bunch of rookies? So you got to look at it kind of like LeBron and the Lakers, right? Like, they could be contenders, but then once you saw it happen, they probably aren't this year, right? So it's with them, they definitely need to take it slow, let all their pitchers develop. But they're all of these, 6 starting pitchers there in the top 100 in the MLB prospects list will not be with the Padres for long. It's not going to be like the Mets where they bring everybody up and then they screw kind of maul them up. It's going to be where they're going to have Mackenzie Gore come up, and they're going to have Chris Paddock come up, and then the rest of them are either going to come up or they're going to get traded. That's the smartest move. Like you said, if I'm the GM, that's what I'm doing as far as a smart move, as well as developing these hitters. So what was your thought on this?
I was going to say, like the LeBron analogy, his biggest value is what he can draw to LA.
Yeah.
And I think now that Machado's there, it's going to show legitimacy to the Padres. And I think you're going to see maybe Dallas Keuchel could be the next kind of piece to come in. If he thinks that there's a potential for him to...
Yeah, he's a free agent, too. He's not
exactly.
a...
You don't need to trade for it. And the fact that the Padres are still like, yeah, we still might sign Harper, shows that they're willing to spend money. They'll drop money on Keuchel. They're not afraid of that. So I think having Machado there lends legitimacy to the organization. I think it also showed, like, it could interest Kluber, who was a trade target for the Padres.
And the Padres had been out... Exactly. The Padres had been mentioned in the Kluber sweepstakes as well. So... and you mentioned that they could sign Harper. They only have spent $110 million right now. So I said that big number, right? But that's not this year.
That's the total spent.
The luxury tax cap is $206, so they almost have $100 million to spend.
Yeah.
If I think they're smart, like I said, I think you let these guys develop and you sign some of those guys. You don't go out and sign all these veteran free agents.
Don't Dave Dombrowski it.
Exactly. And you don't lose all these guys, all these young guys, because you can't sign them later. So they need to stay pat. They might not even be a playoff contender this year. I think they'll have a chance because the NL West, it's essentially a 2-team race, and the Padres have now put themselves in that race, so you never know. But I think they take this slow. Manny Machado is their horse along with Eric Hosmer and then hopefully Tatis Jr. And you kind of build them up. But yeah, signing a Keuchel maybe for 2 or 3 years, trading for Corey Kluber, having Mackenzie Gore come up, then you're looking like
that's
real
a pretty good 1,
solid.
2, 3. That's pretty good 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, if they all pan out, that's a really, really good thing. And they're not even mailing out maybe like a Syndergaard getting traded there too.
Right.
So, yeah.
My last big question on Machado, before we kind of move on, is what does this contract say about Machado? Because, listen, we've talked about this for probably 5 or 6 shows now on the Cover 2 podcast leading up to this signing yesterday with Machado. But, listen, we understand that he didn't get the big offers from the Yankees or even the Phillies or some of the other teams that he was possibly looking to go to other than the Padres. The Padres, it seems like, were the only team that was willing to give him that $300 million contract, $30 million a year. Does this say something about Machado that he was chasing the money and maybe not necessarily winning right now? Or is it like, listen, you have to go for the money and the other offers were too low? Because for me, I'm like, all right, Machado's made his money, and in baseball where things are guaranteed contracts, why would he not take a lesser contract to go play for the New York Yankees or a team that maybe is in a better position to win right now? Like, are you guys okay with this signing? Do you think it says something about him from a personal standpoint?
I mean, as far as Dodger fan, I'm not okay with the signing because now we have to Kershaw and Walker Buehler have to face.
Even the Dodgers potentially re-signing him.
Man, well, I don't think that was going to happen because, like I mentioned, he didn't show that he helped. And I think Corey Seager probably is a better team guy anyways and has been around that clubhouse for a long time. So I think with their similar statistics and all that, I think Corey Seager's the better fit anyways. Number one, the one thing that you mentioned, what's different about Machado? Well, he's rich now. He's going to make $150 million. I do think he chased the money. Because if you look at the White Sox deal that they apparently offered him, now Kenny Williams, their GM, came out and talked about this. Apparently their offer was 8 years, $250 million, which is more per year by about $1 million than the Padres deal for 8 years, with incentives and options and stuff like that, which some people have said could have reached $350 million. But that wasn't guaranteed. So only the 250 was guaranteed. Machado wanted that 300. He wanted that number. He wanted to break the record, I feel like. So it was about the money, but he was chasing Chicago White Sox, San Diego Padres. These are two awful teams. Okay, these are two teams that have been last place for a while and are looking to build up. So, yes, he could have signed with the Phillies, but I think the Phillies had more, have their hopes on Bryce Harper, possibly even Mike Trout in the future. So, I think they were looking in a different direction. I don't think he had a lot of options, but he definitely was chasing the money for sure.
Yeah, I think I have a couple points on that contract. I think for him, a lot of the big, market teams that you're naming, like the Yankees, the Dodgers and stuff, they already have a lot of money on their payroll. And then the thing from the Yankees is being the Yankee fan, the talking Yankee fan, they're going to want to sign their prospects. Aaron Judge is going to have to get paid soon. Gary Sanchez is going to have to get paid soon.
So they want to take care of their own guys before they dish out money.
I mean, I'd rather have Aaron Judge than Manny Machado in a heartbeat.
100%.
100%.
I think Aaron Judge might be the best player in baseball.
I
behind
like
Mike
that
Trout.
comment.
Yeah.
Are you saying that just because we have a Yankees fan here?
I'm okay with being moved.
Kind of. I mean,
you're going to say that Aaron Judge is better than Mike Trout right now?
No. I said maybe besides Mike Trout.
Oh, okay.
I
You
slipped
said
it in
besides.
there.
I think you're backtracking a little bit.
I slipped it in
I
there.
think Aaron Judge is better arm than Mike Trout. 100%.
I was okay.
I agree. He's bigger than Mike
He's
Trout.
got more power.
Yes. He's darker than Mike Trout too. There's a lot of differences, right? But Aaron Judge
He's got a bigger tooth gap.
Somebody,
Bigger tooth
somebody,
gap for
please
sure.
help me with this argument because I don't understand where this blasphemous is coming from.
No. Okay, you look at Mike Trout. Mike Trout obviously has a lot more.
He's more refined.
Let's just say I'm
He's more of a
I'm
five-tool player?
backtracking because I'm not trying to disrespect Mike Trout. I'm trying to give credit to Aaron Judge.
Okay.
Mike Trout has been the most consistent baseball player probably since Mickey Mantle. Okay, this guy's been fantastic, barring the guys that took steroids and stuff like that. But with Aaron Judge, I just see a higher potential because of how big he is, how good his arm is, where
could
he
hit 60.
plays in his park. I see better stats potentially coming from him. Although he is, I believe he's been in the minors for a lot longer. Yeah. I just see him as having a higher ceiling. I think we've seen Mike Trout's ceiling, and it's amazing.
Okay.
And it's one of the best baseball players of all time. But Judge could go above that. That's what I'm saying. Not right now, but he could go above it.
Trout's like a Corvette. Like, he's going to hit that high RPM, that high potential for a long time. He's going to hit that 30, 40 home runs for like 10 years in a row. Aaron Judge might have like 2 or 3 seasons where he hits 55.
Exactly.
He's already had one. I think it was his rookie year that he hit 52.
Yeah, insane.
So it's, who knows what that kind of potential. I agree with Nick here. I think there's seasons where Aaron Judge will like potentially be a better MVP candidate than Mike Trout.
Okay.
So
no,
step off
when
the
you
edge
when
here.
you originally said your first comment, and we're gonna go back and look at this.
We will. I said Mike Trout's name. I said
Aaron Judge is better than Mike Trout, and I don't know. I don't agree. I understand what you're saying that from a potential standpoint that Judge has a potential to be better than Trout. I think a talking point that I want to sit on is Trout's consistency as far as, he'll hit 30, 40. He might not get up to that 50 range. But then when you look at Judge, yes, he has the potential to get to 55, even 60. But with the amount of strikeouts and the on-base percentage and all that, like it's kind of almost like hit
his
or miss.
His on-base percentage is 2 or 3 in MLB. His on-base percentage is out of
Well, but Trout's is
amazing
there too.
Okay.
Trout's is up there too, and his average is good too.
But Aaron Judge's on-base is actually, he strikes out way more than Mike Trout.
No,
Mike Trout strikes out like 100 times a year too.
I'm not disrespecting Mike Trout at all. I think Mike Trout's big.
I wanted to make sure.
It's more of the shiny new toy thing.
Okay.
Like we see Mike Trout every year. We literally get to watch him every day if we want to.
Right.
And so you kind of take it for granted that he's the best player in the world.
I agree with that.
Right? When you look at Aaron Judge, it's New York. It's Yankee Stadium. They're almost in the World Series. I think they're the top contenders right now, at least in the AL. And you look at that, and it's like you tie all of that in. It's like looking at Steph Curry or Kevin Durant as the best player in the NBA. They probably aren't, but they sure look like it when they win the championship every single year. And Mike Trout's not in the playoffs, stuff like that. But no, Mike Trout is up there. I just think the potential with Aaron Judge is just higher because he's, number one, he's bigger. And number two, that park he plays in, he literally might be able to break the home run record, potentially. So it's going to be tough.
like this guy.
But he pokes a couple balls down the right field line.
He fouls off home runs.
Yeah,
Like,
and exactly. Yeah, and a lot of his home runs go like 500 feet. So it's the shiny new toy thing. I think.
Okay.
But,
All right.
Yes,
Just had to clarify.
Not
there
trying
for
to
a minute.
disrespect Mike Trout anyway. But speaking of Mike Trout, it's a good transition. You look at these guys. Bryce Harper obviously is going to sign probably within the next week or two, right?
Hopefully, we're gonna play a
we
game
might
in
be
a minute.
missing it right now.
Yeah.
It's a
Don't
good
worry,
point.
I've got it.
Someone
up.
check ESPN.
Yeah.
Nolan Arenado is the big free agent next year, and then Mike Trout after that. What do you guys think this does for their contracts, and then potentially Aaron Judge's along the line, because Judge is in that conversation too. As far these are kind of the top 5 players right here. What do you think that does for them? Are these guys going to get more money, or was Machado kind of overpaid, and that's not the standard? What do you guys think?
I think it depends on the market they're going to go to.
Yeah.
I think with the Yankees, Aaron Judge can definitely make that money. He'll probably make more. I think because I don't think he's free agent for 3 more years.
Yeah.
So
Well, they could extend. I think the Yankees will extend him. Though.
I think they'll do the kind of loose Severino deal they kind of just did and like sign him through the arbitration and maybe a year or 2 plus.
Yeah.
I can see that happening. With Nolan Arenado, I think he's going to get similar money because he's going to have to take that Colorado Rockies discount because you were talking about it before.
Yeah.
If you want to.
Nolan Arenado. We were talking about this before the podcast. Arenado, if you look at his stats, I don't have them right here. If you look at his stats, road and home, there's a clear Coors Field factor, and his stats just aren't as good. In past years, they've been similar, but overall throughout his career, it's not. Coors Field has definitely made him look like a top 5 player. I still think he is. Defensively, he might be the best player in baseball,
He's so
potentially.
good.
At third base, I mean, listen, go look at top 10 Nolan Arenado plays, and it's like you're watching like Ozzie Smith
Brooks,
shorts.
yeah, Brooks
exactly.
Robinson
Exactly.
kind of
So
stuff, yeah.
it's unbelievable. But so that factors into it a lot too. But with Nolan Arenado, there is that Coors Field factor that we don't see with Mike Trout, that we don't see with Bryce Harper or Aaron Judge
Well,
or
just get the Yankee factor,
Manny
I
Machado.
guess, yeah.
Yeah, but
But he's hitting the money.
it's like Stanton. Stanton gets signed by the Yankees, hits 40 home runs, but he hit what 60
He hit 60.
in Miami. So it's like Aaron Judge would do that too.
They're
At this
just
time.
both do it.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Well, Stanton.
But, yeah.
I by the way, just go on a little Yankee tour. Man, these guys tearing apart Stanton for striking out is the funniest thing. Because when I went
hilarious.
to that Red Sox Yankees
It's
playoff
so
game
funny.
last year to boast a little, Stanton struck out. Everybody was waiting for him to strike out the whole time. The crowd was just on
He's
him.
so good at it.
They cussing at him, yelling at him. It's going to be interesting to see how those guys do. Both of them kind of need to temper their strikeouts down a little bit. But yeah, getting back to the fact, do you guys think that these guys are going to get bigger contracts eventually? Do you think one of these guys is a $40 million guy?
And I think getting back to the more recent or the sooner free agents, I don't know,
Yeah.
this is tough. But like Harper, I think Harper absolutely makes more money than Machado.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is better than Machado. I would take Harper over Machado instantly. So I think he's going to get more money. I think Trout's probably be a $40 million man. I just don't see him doing that with the Angels.
Well, you know what's funny?
That's the problem.
With Mike Trout, too, I was talking to my dad about this morning. Mike Trout should start leveraging the Angels really soon.
Real hard.
I think he already has.
Let's say he tears his ACL this year. That's leverage for the Angels, right? You don't want to be going into that final year having to repair. If Mike Trout's right now, he's like, Anthony Davis situation where it's like, if you guys don't sign me,
can't be more
if
valuable
you
right
guys don't sign me this year, extend me this year, I'm done. You need to trade me, or maybe before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
And I think that it would actually be smart for the Angels either to sign him or trade him. I think it could work out either way because you look at Joe Adell. I think he's not Mike Trout, obviously, and we don't even know what he can do. Joe Adell's the top prospect for the Angels.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Joe Adell could be that guy that you build around, and then you have all these other prospects that you get from a Trout trade.
Yeah.
So I think it can work both ways. Obviously, if you're an Angels fan, you don't want to lose the best player in the game, but sometimes things have to happen if you're not willing to spend $40 million. Artie Moreno yesterday, though, came out and said he's trying to buy the 2 TV networks, so he's trying to make more money to sign these guys. Artie Moreno's going to make a deal. I think Mike Trout will stay in Los Angeles because of what happened with Artie Moreno yesterday. He said he's going to try to buy up Prime Ticket and Fox Sports West so that they get more revenue and more money for potentially signing big free agents.
Yeah, listen, as the resident Angels fan
Yes.
here, I will say this. Of course, I would like Mike Trout to stay, and I want him to stay. I think what the Angels have done in the last 3, even 4 years, I think they've wasted his
100%.
time. And it's because of the bad contracts that they've signed, the lack of initiative in free agency in the offseason, and building a full team around him, and not just guys that can come in and hit or sell tickets, but how about a bullpen? How about consistent starting pitching, and not just young guys that come up and then constantly get injured? Because I think that's been the problem with the Angels is, in the past offseason, not necessarily this offseason, you've seen them sign some, decent players, and it's like, okay, if these guys can stay healthy, this team can make some type of noise. They can't stay healthy, number one. Even Trout got injured last year, and we saw what happened with that. They just completely tanked, right? And so for me, if I'm Mike Trout, I'm looking at it this way, and I'm going off of an interview that I saw Mike Trout do yesterday, where a reporter asked him and said, are your plans to stick with the Angels and sign a long-term contract? And he literally looked that reporter dead in the face and said no comment, right? So I think that right there, that wasn't directed at that reporter. That was directed at Artie Moreno and the Angels, saying,
of course
you guys better get your you-know-what together, or else I'm gone. And I have no problem leaving. Like, obviously, I appreciate what you guys have done for me. This is a great city, a great organization, blah, blah, blah. But if you're not willing to bring on better prospects and build a better team around me, why would I stay here and waste my prime years? Right? You guys want to mention him with the likes of Babe Ruth and Mickey Mantle and some of the greats, the first ballot Hall of Famer soon to be. Why would he waste his time in LA if the team isn't willing to build a supporting cast around him? So if I'm Trout, like I said, as an Angels fan, if he leaves, I can't be mad at the guy, because it's not like he's been with the team for 1 or 2 years.
No.
And it's like, okay, we're still a feeling out process. He's been the best player in baseball for going on 5-6 years now.
Since he came in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if he goes to the Phillies, if he goes to Baltimore, if he goes somewhere else, kind of back home, closer to home, at the end of the day, I can't fault him for doing that, and I would not be surprised in the slightest if that's what ends up happening.
Well, I don't want to keep making basketball comparisons, but this is exactly like Anthony Davis. It's the exact same situation. The Pelicans did not build enough around Davis, atrocious job doing it. The Angels have done a little better. There was 1 year where they had the best record in the MLB, I believe. But besides that, they've kind of, they haven't signed any starting pitchers. A lot of their guys have got hurt. There's been some bad luck along the way, and they've been competitive. They haven't been like the worst team in the league, besides maybe 1 year. But you're right. They need to do something this year. They need to maybe potentially go out and maybe trade for a star pitcher or something like that. I thought they might go out and potentially go get a Kluber. They should think about possibly maybe signing Dallas Keuchel.
Dallas Keuchel's still in the street.
He's an AL West guy.
Let's go.
Yeah. So they need to do something. But Artie Moreno came out yesterday and said, because I was on a plane for like 100 hours yesterday, so I did a lot of sports research. Artie Moreno came out and said yesterday that he's trying to make money to keep the Angels in Anaheim. He's trying to make money to sign bigger free agents, to have more cap space, stuff like that, like the Dodgers did, and do all that stuff.
Then get a GM that can focus on the baseball stuff instead of just working on the real estate and working on the TV deals. Get someone who's going to do actual player acquisition.
Yeah, true.
Thank you. Just like, well, I got a lot of stuff on my plate. Let's put a GMs for you, dunce.
And to piggyback off of that, why are we now in the 5th, 6th year and you're just saying this? Why wasn't this taking place 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when you realized that Trout was the real deal? Why wasn't it like, okay, we know what this guy is now, let's try to invest now? Why did it take you 6 years to say, oh, Trout's the best player in baseball, now let's build around him, now let's try to finance the money to then bring in other prospects? To me, it's their thinking is backwards, and it's not proactive, and I think that is probably the most frustrating thing as a fan, is the fact that they're not taking the steps needed to build around them. When you see other teams like the Padres, who have been horrible, and all of a sudden they get Manny Machado, and it's like the Angels can't get Dallas Keuchel and can't get some pitching to build around him. So I think it's just the frustration probably coming out right now, and I think especially for Trout. Now, Trout's a very humble guy, right? Trout's not going to come out and bash the Angels publicly, but he also, like I said in that comment, when he was very direct and said no comment, I think that has a lot more backing and a lot more to it than what many people may think.
No, there's a lot of people in Anaheim frustrated right now. You look at the hockey team and the baseball team, and neither of them are impressing right now. But yeah, so good baseball. So do we want to talk about anything else? I don't know how much time we're on the clock. I think we have about a minute left. Was there anything you wanted to mention? I think we will get into a little more baseball and do you care potentially. But do you want to mention anything else specific that you didn't get to say because you are the guest today?
Yeah. Any Yankees? Anything coming up?
Yeah.
Can we get a
prediction? This is the Alex Silva.
Can we get a baseball prediction?
Bias hour.
This is thinking into the future.
Yankees win the AL East this year. The Red Sox don't make the playoffs.
Ooh.
Teaser. Come back on the other side.
Wow.
Okay. Red Sox don't make the
wow.
playoffs.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I mean, Red Sox.
Speaking of good
Red
prospect
Sox
teams,
have not done a lot. I'll tell you that. I mean, really, they've done nothing.
They've lost.
Yeah, they've only lost, and they've lost a lot of their bullpen. But that's a great prediction. That's a
Okay.
Blue Jays.
exactly. By the way, I wanted. I believe the RKJ man commented that he thought it was BS that Machado got a $300 million contract. He said he's worth 100, not 300. So that's just a comment from the peanut gallery here.
Okay.
Today I know he.
I agree. I don't think he's worth 300. I mean, I think it's the market price.
I mean,
I think you guys pay the
yeah,
market price.
it's the fact that
It's like the quarterback thing in the NFL where it's like Matthew Stafford's obviously not worth the money he's making, but
neither is Kirk Cousins.
it's not very, yeah.
I mean, Kirk Cousins
It's
weighs
market price kinda
six
thing.
yards in their biggest game of the year, or something like that. I mean, go over that all day.
Don't even
I
get me started.
I could tear.
You thought I
apart.
was heated right now with Mike Trout?
I'm so glad
Don't.
the Broncos didn't get Kirk Cousins.
Don't. Do not get me started.
I'm glad the Cardinals did either. We got Josh Rosen, Mike
Oh
Glennon.
gosh.
But
Josh Rosen stats,
yeah.
pretty exciting as well.
Oh yeah, Jay.
10 for 20,
It's terrible.
65 yards.
No,
We're going
well,
off the rails.
They
We're
put a
going-
high school offensive line in front of them. It's not fair.
We're going off the rails.
But yeah, we need to go break. We're going into football after that Red Sox prediction. There's just nothing off limits today. We're going to football. We're gonna get your comments on Joe Flacco. He go into your team, Denver Broncos. We're gonna jump into AB. Now is officially gonna get traded. He met with ownership, and now ownership is acknowledging that they're gonna trade him. We'll also get the Colin Kaepernick news. Kaepernick settled with the NFL, which has made it about 100% acceleration in the chance that he gets signed. At least in my opinion, I think your opinion too. So we're going to go to that on the other side of this quick break here on Facebook Live and on OC Rock Radio. This is the Cover 2 podcast.
The NFL said today it has reached a settlement agreement with quarterback Colin Kaepernick. Kaepernick says the league colluded to keep him off the field the past 2 years following his sideline protests. Beginning in 2016, no settlement numbers have been given.
And I think a lot of their players played above the rim last year.
Yeah. Oh, I know everybody. Like, Beck's played unbelievable.
Best side control.
Martinez is...
Porcello.
Oh, yeah, I know.
He's not going to do that.
Dave Price in the playoffs.
Mr. Big Chest back on Twitter yesterday morning, declaring to the world that he finally had his meeting with Mr. Big. Art Rooney II, the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, had a great meeting with Mr. Rooney today. We discussed a lot of things, and we cleared the air on several issues. We both agreed that it is time to move on, but I'll always have appreciation and gratitude towards the Rooney family and the Steelers organization.
And we're back here on the Cover 2 podcast, live on OC Rock Radio and Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us. Once again, I'm Jared Smith.
I'm Alex Silva, the guest speaker.
And I'm Nick Nina.
And for those who don't know, Alex Silva has been a guest speaker on our show a few times. Obviously, the first time that you're getting to see his beautiful face here.
Yes.
Coming down from St. Louis Obispo. He's a big Yankees fan, a big Denver Broncos fan, and that is great for us because we're transitioning into the NFL, and we're going to get into Colin Kaepernick and Antonio Brown in a little bit. And but we want to get Alex's thoughts on his new quarterback for the Denver Broncos.
Quarterback for the future.
Joe Flacco. And I don't necessarily know if it's quarterback of the future.
Very immediate future.
Maybe more of a Band-Aid situation.
I was what you call joking about
Yeah,
that.
okay. We just wanted to make sure. But let's jump right into it, Alex. Let's get your thoughts on this. What do you think about this signing? Do you think that Joe Flacco fits with the Broncos? And do you think that he is an upgrade from Case Keenum?
First off, I've spent like the last week convincing myself to be excited about this. So I have. So I'm excited. Can't wait. I want to see him on the field. I want to see him throw some. I want to see him throw some deep balls to Emmanuel Sanders because no one's been able to throw Emmanuel Sanders a deep ball since he got to the Broncos, and that's kind of that was his game a little bit with the Steelers because Peyton Manning couldn't get it out there. Trevor Simeon's not giving it out there.
No.
So yeah, I'm not going to go into the other names that the Broncos had because it's embarrassing.
Okay.
So I'm excited to see what kind of potential that is. The reason why the Broncos chose him over Nick Foles is because he spent more time under center, which is, let's just telegraph our game plan, which is run the ball. Like, I'm starting to talk myself out of it.
You know,
It
comment,
wasn't sounding good.
that comment is surprising to me, and for this reason, because John Elway, the general manager, the former quarterback, you would think that he would want the best all-around quarterback and not necessarily one maybe for this specific system. We all understand that the NFL is transitioning to a little bit more of the spread system, college route, RPO, that type of thing. So I think you have to be innovative in today's football. It doesn't matter if you're a Sean McVay, where you're a new coach, or you're a Bill Belichick. You have to be creative in your ways. So if that is, kind of the thought process, then if I were you, yes, I would be a little worried. And the fact that you have to convince yourself to like this signing probably means that you don't like it in the first place.
Yeah, the last time I've had to kind of do this was like the Tim Tebow thing. I was like, he's just a good guy.
He's got a big heart.
Yeah, I'd follow him in a battle. That kind of thing. So it's
he won him a playoff game
against the Steelers in 300 yards.
Right. So listen,
let's not
Super
knock
Bowl
it.
winning quarterback, Joe Flacco.
Exactly.
It's not like it can't work, but it's not that sexy first round draft pick or even a Jimmy Garoppolo. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like he's almost washed up. He got beat out by Lamar Jackson. So
I think if you're saying it's an upgrade with Case Keenum, I think if you look off like the PFF, the football focus, Pro Football Focus thing, it was a 72.6 to a 71.3 overall grade. Joe Flacco was a 72.6, so it is an upgrade, but just marginal at best. So I think what we're realizing is this draft class has no quarterback for us. I've seen some mock drafts where the Broncos trade up to the 3rd pick to get a guy. Kyle Murray,
Dwayne Haskins, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe someone, but who's going to move before him? So and even if we get Dwayne Haskins, is that really the guy that you want to jump up to spend that draft capital on? Where we get Joe Flacco, we have him for 2 years. You get a 10th overall pick, maybe bolster the defense. I would prefer them get an O lineman from Iowa or Wisconsin and just get some big old white kid in there to block for whenever we do get. Because the next draft class is where we're going to see Jake Fromm. We're going to see that Herbert, or what's his name from Oregon?
Tagovailoa from Alabama.
Yeah, I'd rather have Jake Fromm.
Yeah.
So, but there's a much more, there's a lot more depth in the next year's draft class. Yeah, in front.
Question. Thank you. Last year's draft, there's about 4 or 5 first-round quarterbacks that the Broncos could have easily had their hands on, and they chose to go a defensive route with Bradley Chubb. Bradley Chubb's a great player, and he looks like he's going to complement Von Miller very well. Once again, this is kind of like a question for John Elway. Why would they pass up on that draft class? And listen, their scouting department is not dumb. You look ahead a year or two, right? So they were probably predicting what was going to happen this year and seeing maybe the lack of quarterback talent. Why would they not grab a quarterback last year and now be stuck in this situation this year? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I do. I think when they had the 4th overall pick, the options they could have got with Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson. Or Josh Rosen.
Right, Rosen.
Or Rosen. Or you know what?
Yeah,
they move up a pick and get Mayfield.
I'd rather have Dwayne Haskins over those 3 I just listed.
Over
Josh Rosen, Lamar Jackson.
And Sam Darnold?
No, Sam Darnold was 3rd.
Okay.
So we wouldn't have gotten him.
Okay.
Well, yeah, what was the... Mayfield went number 1.
Mayfield, Barkley.
But even if you could have traded up.
Trade up's the conversation.
Yeah,
basically what I'm saying, and this is a little off topic as far as talking about the Giants. The Giants did the same thing. The Giants drafted Saquon Barkley. And Saquon Barkley is a great generational talent.
That's true.
When it comes to the quarterback position, I think that trumps everything. And so as great as Saquon Barkley is, I don't think that he can carry your team and lead you to a championship like a quarterback can. Yeah. So what I'm saying is,
he was awesome too.
If you have an opportunity to get a future game-changing quarterback, you take that, and that trumps everything else. You get your running back in the 3rd or 4th round. You get your defensive end in the 2nd round. So what I'm saying is, why do these teams continue to pass on these quarterbacks when we all know that if you don't have a quarterback, the chances of you making the playoffs are slim to none?
Slim. I think the argument that Elway would say, and this is what he probably believed, is we got Case Keenum, and he just took the Vikings to the playoffs, but not recognizing the Vikings were a far more complete offense and a far more complete defense, I think, at the time. So I think, but he was like, we got Case Keenum, though. So we have our Band-Aid until we get these Jake Fromms and the whatever.
And now they're on to what looks like their second Band-Aid.
Well, yeah. They get two Band-Aids. You got a bunch of cuts on your team now. But no, you do look at the quarterback class next year, though. You got Tua. I mean, if these guys come out.
Yeah.
Herbert will come out from Oregon.
Yeah.
Jake Fromm. Exactly. So there's a lot of guys, and then there's, of course, Trevor Lawrence down the way, too, that you can look at. That's way down the line. So there's definitely better quarterbacks coming up than this year, for sure.
Yeah.
It's pretty much just Dwayne Haskins, and if you want to throw a flyer on Kyler Murray, at least that's my opinion. I think he's way overrated. But so it is very interesting this year with the quarterback situation. I think the Broncos are kind of in that, we were just talking about the Padres, in that standstill where they make the playoffs, you have a chance, right? And you could make the playoffs because, even though it's tough, you got Chargers and Chiefs in the thing. The Raiders are awful. You're going to probably get 2 wins out of that. And the rest of the AFC is a lot of brand new quarterbacks, stuff like that. So you could get there with a guy like Flacco, with a guy like Case Keenum, but I don't think you guys are really going to push the issue until this next draft class, with a quarterback at least.
I agree. I think and always looking back to the last Super Bowl that the Broncos won, where they had a very subpar Peyton Manning quarterbacking, and the defense won the team.
And the defense was...
defense and running the ball.
I mean, it works.
We saw that in this last year's Super Bowl where we thought it was going to be 35-30. Yeah. And what happened? Defense won, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Defense always plays a hand, and that the Broncos still have a very talented front seven.
I agree.
I think we can all agree they need a little bit of help in the secondary. Yeah. But the defense is what is going to lead this team, at least early on, in my opinion. I think it'll take a little bit of time for Joe Flacco to build a rapport with Emmanuel Sanders, with Sutton, and with the rest of their core. Now you do have Philip Lindsay, who is a very, very nice surprise for them.
And then the Oregon kid is also a good stud.
Right.
I can't remember his name right now. That's really embarrassing. But
Freeman.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Royce Freeman.
Right. So they do have pieces, and I think that's what you were alluding to, Nick, is that they have pieces, but it just might not be enough to get this team over when you start talking about them compared to the other upper level.
Well, because they're not a bad team. The Broncos aren't a bad team. No. They're not like the Raiders who have nobody, right? Or even like the Cardinals signing all these free agents. Like the Cardinals have some pieces, but on offense it's really not there. So they need to go out and make some moves. They need to draft smart. Broncos, you draft smart, but you just draft safe almost this year. Yeah. You get a couple defenders, maybe an O-lineman, like you said, and you can deal with it because you have solid running backs. You have a nice young receiver in Cortland Sutton. You have a nice vet in Emmanuel Sanders. You're a solid team that could make the playoffs if you win some tight games back and forth. But you don't need to go all in and spend this money, especially with the cap with the NFL. It's so tight and so tough. You can't screw yourself over with that. So by building a young core defense and kind of just starting over with the whole Super Bowl type mindset that they had a couple years ago, I think that'd be their smartest route. So having Flacco, who I think is better than Case Keenum right now, is probably the better option.
And then probably the last point on this, because we want to get into AB, but with having Vic Fangio as the new head coach, he's a defensive-minded guy. He's not going to be there to be grooming a new young guy. He's not, the Hugh Jackson, which is a terrible, or Sean McVay, who's like, I'm going to be a quarterback guy. I'm going to be with him all the time, making sure he develops. He wants a guy who's going to be able to come in, run his, call it vanilla offense, but like a ground-to-pound kind of offense so that the defense could, put him in good position, get the ball over from him in short fields. I think it's going to be that. I think that's the mindset. That's what the conversations are.
And I think that's what happened last year when they hired Vance Joseph from Miami, who was also a defensive coordinator, came over, and I think they tried to do the same thing with getting a veteran quarterback, and it didn't work that time. So we'll see. Second time's a charm. Take two. We'll see. I think one of the qualities of being a great head coach, whether you're a defensive coordinator or an offensive coordinator, is being able to realize that, listen, Sean McVay brings in Wade Phillips, right? A great defensive guy, but Sean McVay is still in those defensive meetings, right? He doesn't just exclude that team. So I think for Vic Fangio, I think he needs to make it known to that offense that, hey, guys, like, I'm still here for you guys, right? Yeah. I'm not just going to leave you high in the wind and say, all right, it's only going to be defense. I think they got to build that camaraderie if they want this thing to work and build. But I know we do need to move on.
Absolutely. We are going to move on to little Steelers news. There was news that just came out a second ago that we'll get into after we talk about this Antonio Brown thing. But Antonio Brown now met with upper management, specifically the owner, Rooney, and they have now agreed upon that a trade will happen. Antonio Brown will not be a Steeler next year. So, we've talked about this Jared on the podcast before, discussing that where he possibly could go. Now it's official, so now we can kind of really start making our predictions. And now that you're here as well, it adds an extra layer of prediction we can have. So let's talk about this again. Antonio Brown now will get traded. Is there going to be a first round pick involved, second round pick? What teams? What are your thoughts? Alex, I'll actually give you first thought on this since you didn't talk about it last week or whenever we talked about it. What do you think is going to happen with AB? How much do you think a team has to trade for him?
Gotcha. I think the team. This is what I was talking about maybe like a couple weeks ago. Just like it's at bar 10, and so you obviously get all your thoughts and theories out there.
Oh yeah.
And so one of the ones that I thought made a lot of sense was him to the Raiders. The Raiders have the draft capital to acquire him to make it worthwhile for the Steelers.
Sure.
And they have the financial capital to actually pay him if they want to extend him and bring in a shiny quarterback in Derek Carr, a shiny new receiver who's established into Vegas. So you're not going there limping into a new stadium. You're going there, you can capture a fan base quickly. So that's the kind of the prediction I can see happening in terms of the draft capital. Because they have, 3 first-round picks? They can definitely make it worthwhile for the Steelers.
No, that's true.
Okay. All right, that's interesting. I want to get this one out there. And I know that you guys have said you've used the word dark horse a lot with our last segment when we were talking about the Padres. So there's been a lot of chatter that, AB to the 49ers, Jerry Rice has came out, and Terrell Owens has come out and kind of, condoned it and trying to make it into just like LeVar Ball, trying to make it into a speak it into existence in a sense, right? I don't necessarily know if I see that happen. I think it would be great for Jimmy Garoppolo. They are not going to re-sign Pierre Garçon, so technically they don't really have a number one receiver. And not that Pierre Garçon was, but he was really the only consistent receiving threat that they had. My dark horse is the Green Bay Packers. And I'll give you a couple reasons why. Number one, they are, for the first time in a while, and they have a great cap situation, right, where they don't have a lot of dead money. They can go out and spend money on a free agent. They have Devontae Adams. Randall Cobb is getting up there, a little long in the tooth, right? They have a couple young rookie receivers that they drafted last year, but think about this. You complement Devontae Adams with Antonio Brown, and you have Aaron Rodgers, a healthy Aaron Rodgers. That's
Jimmy Graham still too, right?
And Jimmy Graham. Yeah. That from a passing standpoint, an offensive passing standpoint, I don't know if you can really get better than that from an offensive standpoint. And if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, you take him out of the AFC. He goes to the NFC, right? The one thing for the Packers as well, or whatever team does trade for Antonio Brown, the Packers will, for at least this year, be eating up the majority of his contract. Because Antonio Brown still has 3 years left. And that's one thing that I quickly want to get to. I want to get to some of the teams that you may think he may go to. But very quickly, I think this is a bad thing overall for a bad look for players when you have multiple years left on your contract and you're basically forcing your way out of that contract to try to go to another team. I understand that certain situations come up and things may happen, but guess what? You're a grown man. You signed this contract, right? You said you wanted to be here. And now you're, not suiting up for games. Like he missed the game last year. He was in a fur mink coat, and then he left the game at halftime. You know what I mean? Like you want to talk about the word diva with a wide receiver. I think that's what's happening here with Antonio Brown. You're forcing your way out. You want to talk about the Anthony Davis situation. He's almost forcing his way out of his contract before that's up. It's like you have an obligation to play for that team that you signed. You know what I mean? Like now, if you have 1 year left, it makes a little more sense because you're trying to look at the future. But if you have 3 years left on your deal, and you're trying to force yourself out of that, like that's your own fault for getting into that deal, right? Then you shouldn't have signed it. You should have signed a 2 year deal with a 3 year option or something like that. So I have an issue with this because I think this is a bad look for players, and I think what this will do is, unfortunately, this will now make other players who feel that they want a new contract try to do the same thing, and I think it's just going to be a bad look for the NFL.
Yeah, that's it. I like that you said that too, because I don't know if this was really official, but like people have been talking about Odell Beckham Jr. possibly wanting to get traded to the New England Patriots and stuff like that now, which is totally what I expected from Odell too, is to come out right after AB comes. I got to out-diva AB.
I was just going to say, like, OBJ, your move. I didn't know that. I didn't hear this stuff.
No. So there was a lot of people talking yesterday about how the Patriots tried to trade for Odell Beckham Jr. and how some of his tweets are cryptic about how he doesn't want to be with the Giants now that AB's, been playing the diva role. And it's not a good look when you sign a wide receiver and all of a sudden he wants to leave. There are certain guys in the NFL that you'd be kind of sketched to have on your team, right? Like, oh, okay, well, Antonio Brown, you have on team. Let's say whoever signs him or trades for him right now, they go, if you're a fan of the team, you go, okay, well, what if he just doesn't like this team, wants to leave next year? Or Odell, what if he wants to leave? Right? There are some guys like Larry Fitzgerald that have stayed a long time. There's guys like Julio Jones that have kind of asked to get out, but not really, and still performed at a very, very high level. And they're playing in the games. Antonio Brown's sitting out games. Odell Beckham Jr. is on a boat right before a playoff game. And so, it's just like there's a lot of stuff going on. So I like that you mentioned that because now all the other diva wide receivers are coming out and doing the same thing. And it's just not good for the league, especially if you're a fan of a team and they sign a guy to a long-term deal and then all of a sudden he just wants to get traded. It's ridiculous.
Not to mention what owner now is going to want to invest these kind of years in a wide receiver. It's going to hurt the free agent type of negotiations, which is, I think with the players union, that's always what they're talking about, like always take the most money because you're going to help the guys down the line. What these guys now are doing are screwing those future players who are going to become free agents. They're probably doing it the right way and playing where they want to or where the team wants them to play, all that jazz. And now, but won't get that guarantee. Like, well, OBJ and Antonio Brown, and these guys are kind of ruined for it.
Oh, yeah. And a quick point, Antonio Brown came out with an Instagram video as he was like on the treadmill, I think, or working out or something. He was sweating all over the place. And he basically said whatever new team trades for him, he will not take any new contract that he wants reworked unless it's fully guaranteed. So he wants Kirk Cousins fully guaranteed. Yeah. So he not only wants to be traded out of a contract that he still has 3 years left on, but whatever new team he goes to, he wants a reworked contract that is fully guaranteed. So, listen, I don't know, man. You bring up a great point as well. It's like, listen, it would be great to have AB on your team, whether you're the Packers or the 49ers or whatever, but it's like, at what cost, right? Because I'm not giving up a first-round pick for him. Not at all. He's going to be. He's 30 going.
That might be his caveat.
He's 30 going on 31, right? So it's not like he's 25. He's still in his prime. He's still a great receiver, but it's like, what is his worth? What would you guys give up if you were a team willing to trade?
First of all, the next thing he's going to come out with is that he demands that 2 first-round picks get traded for him. Along with that, man, I mean, it's getting ridiculous now.
I mean, that's just helping the Steelers, which I don't know if he wants to do.
I make a first-round pick for him.
Really?
If I'm the Raiders, I traded away Amari Cooper for a first round, and I just upgraded to Antonio Brown. And I know you're a Dallas fan.
Antonio Brown's better than Amari Cooper. I'm not.
Yeah.
You're not going to get an argument.
And you just essentially swap them because you're giving up that first round pick. I make that trade. If I'm the Jets and I have my quarterback of the future
Stole my team. I was just about to talk about.
I know, that's why I didn't get quite to your predictions. So to bolster Nick Neenan's pick of the Jets getting Antonio Brown, the Jets have their future quarterback. Mm-hmm. What do they have? They don't have the 3rd overall pick.
I mean, it's not.
They're in the top 10.
It's a good pick.
Top
10 pick for sure.
I don't know if you go that high, but I can see them wanting to do that and help the new coach be like, hey, here we're gonna give you let Sam Darnold a toy.
Yeah.
Jets have the 3rd overall pick, by the way.
Ooh, that's a lot.
3rd overall pick, dude.
It's a lot.
It's rough.
It's a lot. That's a lot for AB. But all these teams, it's Cardinals, 49ers, Jets. Raiders, they're all in the AB sweepstakes.
Yeah.
So, like, if they're trading the first-round pick, I don't think the Cardinals would ever trade their first
1-1.
No way.
No.
They'd rather have,
Who
like...
for 1-1?
I'd rather have them traded back. I think the Cardinals need more assets. But you need to keep a first-round pick.
Go up and get Haskins.
Yeah, I hope someone trades up for Kyler Murray and makes that mistake.
That'd be hilarious.
First pick.
The Raiders.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be the Raiders.
Just really ruin their whole situation.
I know. I saw something that came out today that said
Watch the
Ricky Henderson had been talking to Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray asked if he played for the Raiders, if he could still play for the A's, and the A's said that's not the way we dealt with the contract. Plus, they're not going to be in Oakland for after 1 year, so it doesn't make any sense. Exactly. It's such a schemy way for Kyler Murray to get in the NFL as well. But no, it's going to be. So you almost have to look at a team lower in the ranks, right? I mean, Jets have I think the Jets are going to have to potentially maybe trade back in the draft and then trade. Like they're not going to give if they give up the 3rd overall pick for Antonio Brown. That is not worth it.
No.
Antonio Brown's, what is he, 30? Going to be 31 after next year? That's not, Larry Fitzgerald, I think, is 35, 36. That's only a couple of years away from where Antonio Brown's going to be.
Larry Fitzgerald's, no offense to you now, has fallen off.
No, he's fallen off, absolutely.
Yeah.
After last season, he's not number one. Christian Kirk is But, so it's going to be interesting. I have the Jets because they have $100 million in cap space, and I think the New York allure rather than Indiana with Indianapolis Colts or something like that, or Oakland or something like that, might be a little more of a draw. Obviously, he doesn't get to pick who he gets traded to, but he kind of does because he's a star player. So I'm going to go with the Jets, but maybe it's going to have to be a high second-round pick. Maybe it's going to be high second-round pick, 2020 first-round pick, maybe another something like that. Just throw a bunch of draft picks at him instead of one big one. I don't think if you're the Jets, Cardinals, Raiders, or 49ers, you give up that number 2 pick for him, though.
I think the Raiders, they make the
top 5.
They're the 20-something pick.
Yeah, the Raiders have.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
The Raiders have
good point.
number 4, number 24, and number 27.
So the
right now, listen.
I think you get one of those. I think that's worth it.
Think about it this way: the Raiders, when they traded Khalil Mack and got that first-round pick, I mean, the Bears, I don't think we saw the Bears having this great of a season, right? So I think the Raiders, and even the Cowboys, when they started out 3-5, the Raiders could have had 3 top 10 picks.
They did, yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the Cowboys and the Bears play well.
Yeah.
And
so
now
dang it.
it's they're in the late first round, which is basically a second-round pick. So the Raiders...
They had one good year.
A lot going on.
They had
right
one
now.
good year, and now they're just trash again.
It's just not.
It's just.
I'm sorry. This was not meant to be like a
I'm
Raiders.
sorry. Yeah, we probably have some Raiders.
But
no, it's going to be interesting though. But
get us back on track, man.
No, exactly. I know. So we've said the Jets. Obviously, the Colts, a lot of cap space. Texans have been mentioned because they do have a lot of cap space, and they have another way, to combining Deshaun Watson.
That fits in that locker room. Yeah,
It doesn't. But Antonio Brown probably not going to fit in a lot of locker rooms. So it's so there's a lot of choices here that he could go to. I saw someone joke about this. They said that playing in the cold with the Steelers is better than playing in the cold with Buffalo, which is where he could end up with the cap space and stuff like that.
That would be adorable if the Steelers we're going to trade you. Buffalo.
We
got a 4th for you.
I don't think he'd play. I don't think he'd play for it. He'd be like, I'm not playing for them.
We got a 4th for you. Oh, that is...
High 4th.
Yeah.
High 4th.
Yeah.
No,
that would deter other players from wanting to get out of the contract right there.
Good point.
That would, I guarantee that would stop that.
So, you want to get traded?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's
go
good.
ahead.
You're putting everything in our terms now.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he has a no-trade clause like in baseball.
Yeah.
Odell to the Redskins next.
Oh,
Just put him
Stop
on
it.
the Redskins.
Stop it. Hit them with Josh Norman.
more controversy for
Washington. Oh my gosh. Please. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, UFC fights.
Dude, they would have made it out of camp.
Oh my, that's like a I don't, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. That's to be like their own diva show.
OBJ would have a ran to a door, broken jaw kind of issue.
Oh my gosh. Oh,
the Geno Smith incident.
Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yikes.
Good incident. All right, so now we have to adjust to Colin Kaepernick somehow after that. We're going to jump into Kaepernick. He settled with the NFL. His collusion case, there is no money amount that's come out. Well, at least we assume that's what happened, that the NFL paid him a lot of money and kind of paid him an NFL contract.
I've been hearing $80 million.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of money too. The AAF came in and said that they would offer him, that he would only take $20 million or more from the AAF, which makes sense because Colin Kaepernick would be the face of the AAF if he went. So you're going to pay the face the most. What are your guys' thoughts on this? Did this make it sure that Kaepernick's going to sign with a team this year? Does it make it so that this has kind of been somewhat resolved out of nowhere?
I don't think he ever plays another NFL game.
Oh wow! Okay.
I think because no team's going to want that circus. Because the first year is going to be, so is he going to still kneel? Is that part of the suit? Blah blah blah. The NFL filed this suit to get it behind them. They did this to not do this anymore. I guarantee there's no way that I don't want to say guarantee. I'm really sure he's not ever going to play football ever again. I think they just won't. No team wants that circus.
Interesting. I didn't think you'd go that route, but what's your thought on this?
I'm actually leaning towards him not playing again. I'm not confident, I'll put it that way, that Colin Kaepernick will ever play, and it's for that same reason. It's not because of his talent, because he's better than half the quarterbacks in the league right now, and I think we all know that, and he should be in the league. But because he is the face of all of this, we saw Eric Reed last week get a 3-year extension with the Panthers for $22 million, right? Now, while he has been the right-hand man to Colin Kaepernick with all this, he's not necessarily the face. He wasn't the one that started all of this. So because Colin Kaepernick is that face, you're right. I don't believe that any owner... Now, can I see a Jerry Jones, or if Al Davis was still alive, can I see one of those guys?
Oh my God, if he signs...
Can I see one of those guys doing it just for publicity? Unfortunately, I could, but I think
he beats him out.
I think that Jerry Jones, at least the people around him, would tell him no, right? So I don't see any other ownership that would want to take that on, because the whatever fan base would have such a strong disliking for it. And you're right, everyone would be focused on, is Kaepernick still going to kneel? And it wouldn't be about football. And that's what I watch football to see guys play football, right? Not to see if a guy's going to kneel. And last year, the NFL put in a new rule, in a sense, to where before the game, during the national anthem, whether you're a player or a coach, if you do not want to stand up, you don't have to put your hand over your heart, but if you don't want to stand up, then you can stay in the locker room for the national anthem. So they kind of gave players that option, in a sense.
To protect themselves.
Censorship.
Of course it is.
Censorship.
Right, but, for Colin Kaepernick, what would he do? Would he stay in the locker room? Would he come out? Would he still kneel? And you're right, I don't think any owner would want to even take that chance, even if they sign Colin Kaepernick to a deal, even if in the contract it says you can't kneel, that doesn't mean that he still wouldn't do it. He got his potential $80 million or whatever he got from the NFL. It's not like he needs money anymore, right? So he's, in a sense, free to do what he wants.
And then, so you're thinking about the ownership backlash. What happens if he doesn't kneel? What if he comes out and just like, I'm happy go lucky, I got paid, I'm good, and he's just a sellout?
That's a horrible look for Colin Kaepernick.
Exactly. So either way, he loses. Why would he come back? What's the point coming back?
You know what's
He's
fun?
making first round or QB1 money.
That's true. No, it is interesting. I tweeted out the other day. I'm gonna go completely. I actually guarantee he signs this offseason. I think there's enough teams that need a quarterback, and there's enough stubborn GMs that go, "Oh, the NFL paid Colin Kaepernick, and now it's done. Robotic." Yeah, exactly. So.
Thank you.
Kareem Hunt. We talked about him.
We talked about that last week.
Was the last week?
Stealing his takes.
No. We talked about it. I brought that point up last week. If an abuser can be signed to an NFL team, if owners are willing to take on that type of heat with someone who abuses someone else, right? Then you would think theoretically that Colin Kaepernick can get a job in the NFL. When he didn't do anything illegally,
100%.
Right?
Yeah, it is kind of strange that this whole thing has happened anyways. But you look at teams that need a backup already, or even a starter. The Dolphins, Jaguars, Giants, Redskins, Cincy, possibly if they want to go away from Andy Dalton, Broncos. And Carolina if Cam Newton gets hurt this year. And I heard Carolina's like the number one spot he wants to go.
Well, Eric Reed's there.
Of course.
They seem like they have a very... open, I don't know what the right word is, but they're willing to take on that type of deal and deal with the backlash because they feel like they have a strong organization. So I agree that Carolina would be kind of
so there's I just named.
You probably named 5 or 6 teams.
Tampa I put in there too if they want to go a different direction with Jameis Winston as well. But so that's almost 25% of the league that needs a quarterback right there, and Colin Kaepernick is the best option. I would even say the Denver Broncos if they hadn't signed Case Keenum or Colin Kaepernick. I would probably
the conversation for the Broncos for like the last 3 years.
No, exactly. I would even say the Cardinals if I wasn't like a biased fan that would appreciate them giving Josh Rosen a chance. So there's even more teams you could put in this, and then there's teams that you could put him as a backup as well. So I think he's going to get signed. This is a lot of stubborn GMs. They are just going to take it for what it is. They want to win or whatever. And they're going to sign him, and there are some good-hearted GMs out there that will sign a guy and not care about the backlash or whatever because, they're not going to be... you know.
There was a GM last year who, like, if someone wanted a Neal steal, he was going to pay the fines for him. I forgot who. I can't remember.
I can't remember who it was. I remember that story came out.
But
But then there's the GMs.
I want to say it
But
was.
then there's I think it was Loria.
Yeah.
I think. But then there's GMs that say, "Oh, never. You can never kneel."
Exactly, yeah.
Right. So it's like,
Yeah.
you know, obviously he's not going to go to one of those teams more than likely, which is
Yeah.
super unfortunate that that's even a thing. But I do think I think there's enough jobs out there. I think teams are going to stop, you know, settling for like the Dan Orlovskis of the world. And these just Brandon Whedons, right? They're going to be like, oh, we're just going to sign Kaepernick, right? Like the Redskins we talked about, I gave the Redskins so much crap this year because they gave up on their season and didn't sign Kaepernick. Now, he hadn't settled this collusion case, stuff like that, so it made sense. But, you know, at least go out and just, you know.
Have a workout.
Yeah, come
See
on.
what he's got, yeah.
Exactly. Put him in his shorts and a T-shirt. And
I have I have another team that I think.
Oh, I see it.
I see it, yeah.
Now this is just as a backup. The Saints. Now they use their backup quarterback in Taysom Hill,
just gonna say.
who's a beast, by the way.
Yeah.
They use him as a kick returner, and he's the quarterback, right? He's
Yeah.
your backup quarterback.
He's the
Well,
Wildcat
Teddy Bridgewater
guy, too.
was. He's the Wildcat. He does a lot of that type of stuff. Colin Kaepernick can do all of those things,
Oh,
if
yeah.
not better.
Yeah.
Put Colin Kaepernick in that situation as the backup. You still have Drew Brees for another year or two. You're not, you know, forcing Kaepernick to come in and be the face of your organization. Whenever Drew Brees retires, if Colin Kaepernick is still playing, you know, maybe in Sean Payton's system, if he's still, you know what I mean? So I think that could be a good potential fit for him if he were to come back. And I just want to clarify really quick. I want Colin Kaepernick back in the league. Now, I don't think it will happen, but I want to see it happen. So if it does, I think Carolina, because of what we mentioned, but I think the Saints would be an interesting team for him to go
It's
to
definitely a
because
wild
of the
card.
scheme-wise.
There's also been New England Patriots who've been mentioned too because of the whole, you
They'll
know,
just take anyone.
they would. I mean, they took Josh Gordon, and I think they could have Kaepernick and they'd still win the Super Bowl like every single year. I mean,
They've
potentially it
taken,
doesn't
yeah,
matter.
Ocho Cinco.
It's
They've
just-
taken all those.
Yeah,
you
they
know.
have a system that
Now, those guys have
They're
been
the
more
island
headaches,
misfit.
but
Misfit toys, yeah.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. But no, so it should be interesting. We do need to go to break. I did mention this on Twitter as well. Media Circus does get eyes on the TV and butts in the seats a lot too.
Yeah.
So signing Kaepernick for maybe a team that doesn't get a lot of butts in the seats.
Miami.
Exactly. And I think they'd be a lot more tolerant down there too as well. So at least some people in Florida would be tolerant. Is others? Not sure. But we do. Yeah. Just stay south, please. We need to move on. All the Florida teams need a quarterback, unfortunately. But we do need to move on. Do you care? Coming up next, so we're gonna keep up the fun. Got a couple questions. Got a couple questions. You are gonna answer a question, of course, for Do You Care? We are going to talk about a little more baseball, basketball, and even the AAF. Because they made a major mistake this last week. So don't go away. This is the Cover 2 podcast on Facebook Live and on OC Rock Radio.
Here's Curry with a high bounce pass. Yes! Slapping it home! That's what I'm talking about. So Team LeBron will make it 2 straight victories. Oh, Curry. Okay, himself with the reverse.
Are you kidding me? I'm just not a shooter. Way to end the game. I'm just not a shooter.
That's one for the city of Charlotte to cap it off.
Last week, like what was the?
Oh, I don't know exactly what the number was, but like
I don't need
at
the
some
exact
point
number, but, like-
nobody got. I'm pretty sure nobody got paid.
So they were late on.
They were late. They said there was a glitch, and then this guy said no more glitch. $250 million.
He's a legend, and we will appreciate this final season of Bruce Bochy. And Giants president and CEO Larry Baer said this: words cannot adequately express the amount of admiration, gratitude, and respect the Giants family has for Bruce Bochy. His honesty, integrity, passion, and brilliance led to the most successful period of Giants baseball in the history of our franchise.
We are back here on the Cover 2 podcast on OC Rock Radio, as well as Facebook Live once again. I'm Nick Nenad.
I'm Jared Smith.
And we
I'm
have special
Alex
guest
Silva.
Alex Silva. Yes.
Sorry.
No problem. It is time once again for Do You Care? Favorite game here on the show, where we ask each other whether we care about certain topics. Alex, I know you really care about one of these topics today,
Yeah.
so I'm excited to
Find
ask
out.
you.
We'll see if we
I'll
can
ask you that in a second.
Yeah.
But here's the first question. It will go to the special guest, Alex. Do you care that number 8 North Carolina is at number 1 Duke tonight?
I do care, and typically I'm not really a basketball fan, But this game is obviously a rivalry game through and through. Hardcore. This is Yankees, Red Sox. This is Real Madrid, Barcelona. It's a big game. But what really is kind of catching my attention in this game is the ticket prices to get into this game are reaching Super Bowl levels. It's out of control. And then you have these players getting their, $3.50 for lunch? $3.50 for lunch that day?
I mean, if even.
If even.
Yeah.
How is this, moral? I think this brings up the discussion of when do we start paying players? When do some of these concessions start getting to their, maybe it's not directly payment, but upping their standard of living while they're on campus? I think that's the discussion that needs to get raised by that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I do care, and I like that it's highlighted.
My brother's going to be probably a college football player in a year and a half, so I hope they start paying him.
Yeah. They should start going on strike or something. But I mean,
that's the only way they do it, is if every player is just like, I'm not playing.
Yeah, then they don't go to college, and it's the whole thing. But
yeah, that's true.
It's a lot of leverage.
Yeah. In the past, sometimes when kids did stuff at college, too, stuff didn't go over well either. So, Alex, you want to ask you ask the next question?
I think I would. So, Jared, do you care that Le'Veon Bell will not be tagged by the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yes, I do care. And I do care because I'm honestly tired of hearing about all this Steelers news. Number one, I'm not a fan of the Steelers. But number two, it's like their organization seems to be falling apart as far as taking care of their players or lack thereof. Now, whether that's Antonio Brown's fault or whether that's Le'Veon Bell's fault, either way, I think listen, they're both probably top 2, top 3, respectively, at their own positions, and you're about to lose both of them this offseason. There's something wrong within the organization as to why these players don't want to play for your organization, right? I've heard Hines Ward and some other former Steelers come out and saying, oh, blah, 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 this is the best organization in the world. It doesn't seem like that right now,
no.
Right? Because you have 2 players who are superstars, and, you pair them with Big Ben and Juju Smith-Schuster, and you guys are a legit playoff team, and you take those 2 players away, and I don't really know what this team is anymore. So for Le'Veon Bell, this is what he's wanted. He's wanted to be out, and which is why he sat out all of last year to make sure that he kept himself healthy. And now he will be courted by almost, at least 50% of the league who desperately needs a running back, and he will get paid. So really, I think this is more about the Steelers and finding a way to keep your players in-house and coming to a solution, a 50-50 of keeping your players happy while not, bending over backwards, basically, in a sense. Nick, first question for you. Do you care that the San Francisco Giants manager, Bruce Bochy, will be retiring after this year?
I do care, actually, because Bruce Bochy comes up as a topic of conversation in my home a lot. My dad played in the San Francisco Giants minor league system, so he kind of has a soft spot for the Giants, even though we're Dodger fans and stuff like that. He still cheers for the Dodgers, but he does have a soft spot for the Giants. And he really, really respects Bruce Bochy, because Bochy, if you didn't know, he took the Padres to one of the few World Series they've ever been. He coached Tony Gwynn. He was around for all that. And then he gets to the San Francisco Giants, and they win 3 World Series in 5 years. And there's not a lot of MLB coaches that have ever done that. So you're talking about a Hall of Fame manager, should be first ballot, retiring after the season. And it was a wonder when he would as well, because he just grew a little older, and the team kind of was in flux, and obviously, they don't have a superstar to build around. A lot of people have been mentioning that Bryce Harper might sign there and stuff like that, but that might even be less of a chance now that their head coach their manager is retiring. But they just don't have the Bruce Bochy team anymore. They don't have that great team anymore. I think Bochy would serve better maybe working for the MLB or just retiring and being in the, being around the Padres and Giants organizations, maybe being a broadcaster or something like that. Great voice as well, so maybe could do that. But, so good luck for Bochy, after the season. This season, not good luck because he's a Giants manager, and I'm a Dodger fan, so I hope they lose every game. But, so I hope his last season's the worst of all. Yeah, I hope it's terrible. But after that, good for him. Great career, Hall of Fame manager. You never want to see those guys go, and now we have Scioscia and Bochy now going in a 2-year span. So, not necessarily good, but we'll move on. Alex, do you care? Stick with the MLB. Do you care that the MLB is putting in rules to prevent sign stealing?
I do care. So when I first read that headline, I got furious with the catcher in me, because that's part of the tradecraft being a catcher. If you can't protect your signs, you don't deserve to be behind the dish. Then it said that the runner on second can still pick the signs if he's able to. What it's meant to be deterring is the guys in the outfield recording it, or people in the clubhouse being able to watch the monitors of the live telecast and relaying those signs to the clubhouse, and then thus the batter.
Yeah.
So they're implementing a 8-second delay on any TVs within the clubhouse. They're not allowing any monitors in the dugout, obviously. I don't think there was anymore, but they're just cracking down more. So I care. I'm glad they're trying to prevent this, because this is eerily to the Spygate with the Patriots when you're stealing signs. But hey, if you're second, you better be trying to help that batter out and get those signs. And catcher, mix them up, use the runs on the board. Second to last sign, third sign, whatever you got to do.
Well, now you're giving it away.
I want the viewers to be able to, watch and try to pick them up. That's half the fun for me. I'm trying to guess what pitches and what system they're using.
It's true. It is fun.
Yeah.
It is
So,
fun.
Jared, do you care that the AAF came close to not paying their players last week?
No, I don't care. I think it's a little hilarious and not a good look for a
minor league
new organization. Yeah. In their third week, and they came very close to, actually I believe they went like a day or two over when they were supposed to pay their players, and one commissioner forked out a nice $250 million, and I'm sorry, now commissioner, a owner of one of the teams forked out $250 million to make sure that all of the players and anyone that is a part of this organization was paid correctly and on time. And now that person is the commissioner of the league. So, listen, I enjoy watching the game so far. I think they're exciting. Obviously, the talent level is not what the NFL is, but it's basically a development league and an opportunity for players to continue to play and get film time to eventually move up to the big leagues of the NFL. So I am all for it, and hopefully this league can stick around and kind of be that full-time development league. I know we kind of hinted on this last week that the XFL is making a second attempt and will be coming back, I believe, in 2020. So, we'll see what that does as far as comparing with this AAF. I don't think it will. I think the AAF will be a lot stronger, seeing as it's run by many former NFL players and general managers and coaches, and it just has that NFL feel to it. So I hope it does stick around, and I hope that this payment issue does not come about again. Nick, last question for you. Do you care that the NBA All-Star Game was last weekend and Team LeBron came from behind to get the W?
No. I intentionally didn't watch the game and actually watched hockey instead. I was on the East Coast.
Protest.
Yeah, I watched random hockey games as a protest to that horrible basketball that they put on in the NBA All-Star Game. No, I don't care. All joking aside, Team LeBron wins for the second year in a row. Kevin Durant was named to his second All-Star Game MVP. Besides that, the game is just whatever. I mean, even the MLB All-Star Game was a little more fun this year with all the home runs. The All-Star games in general, though, aren't that fun. I mean, we talk about the Pro Bowl, how bad the Pro Bowl is. I think the one that does it right, even though it's not a true All-Star game, is the NHL. They have 3 different games that they put on, all 3-on-3. So it's a little more entertaining to watch throughout the day. But again, you're not really cheering for anybody. You're cheering for a division of players, like a region in the United States. So I'm cheering for the region with the California and Oregon in it. Yeah. So there's not much to talk about. And this is just, if you're Team LeBron, I guess if you could put money on this game, I guess it matters. But other than that, I care less. By the way, the owner you were talking about is the Carolina Hurricanes owner, Tom Dundon. Just wanted to get the name out there.
Gotcha.
He is now the chairman of the AAF.
Really quick, speaking of money with the NBA All-Star Game, one cool thing that they did, both teams, by the way, I think Team LeBron, because they won, they got like $350,000, and Team Giannis got like $150,000, like total between all the players. They actually gave all that to charity. Good. Which was cool.
So they get paid enough, they don't have to.
Exactly. So I think that's the one like kind of shining light on all this was the players got to like choose a charity of their choice, and their winnings and from the game and the weekend got to go to that. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
a cool
NHL
thing
is
about that.
NHL as well. The winning team actually gets a combined $1 million, which means a lot. Like if you're a rookie in the NHL, you're actually getting a solid like payday there.
Right.
So it does. The adding the money value does increase, I guess, your carrying in the game for certain players. I mean, LeBron James is not going to care because the guy's going to be probably the next Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the way he's going to transition in the movies. So it's not, it will be all fine for those guys. But I don't know. Maybe they need to find ways to spice up these games. I think the Pro Bowl should just not exist, to be honest. It's a violent sport, and you don't need that kind of stuff.
Right.
Or play violently. Play like
See,
it's
it's
real.
not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
It's not gonna
Exactly.
happen. No.
So maybe have a skills competition, something like that. Maybe
A flag football.
2-minute drive where they kind of go hard or something like that. Combine a bunch of stuff into something like a little Olympics type of thing.
I mean, it's tough because you don't want guys getting injured, especially
it is.
in the middle of the year.
Yeah.
Whether it's baseball, basketball, it's like with football, at least it's at the end of the year, but still, it's such a violent sport. You're right. But with basketball and baseball, you don't want a guy getting hurt in an exhibition game. So yes, you want them like competing and you want to see a good match, but who wants to see a guy get injured? So they're not going to go hard. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, no.
You can bang your head against the wall you want.
Yeah,
It's never gonna happen.
it is interesting because obviously you see All-Star games back in the day, or even the Pro Bowl, and we all remember the Sean Taylor hit
Right.
on the punter. We remember how hard like Magic Johnson and Isaiah Thomas put. I mean, even Kobe and LeBron, Kobe, Dwayne Wade a couple years ago.
Pete Rose bowling over the catcher.
Peter, exactly.
Well,
Yeah.
Also, most of those games, except for Kobe and LeBron and all that stuff, those guys weren't making a whole lot of money back then.
No, they weren't.
It wasn't a year-round thing, right? Like a lot of guys had secondary jobs in the off-season and things like that. So now that you get paid so much and the expectations are so high and you're expected to stay in shape throughout the whole year and all this stuff, it makes sense why these guys aren't going as hard. If they weren't making as much money, if it wasn't such a full-time thing, then I think you would see these guys probably try a little bit harder and make more effort to appease the fans.
Yeah, but I do like the one thing I do like about that. What they did is they added Dirk and Wade.
I think that was really cool.
I love that because those guys, not that they deserve it. Although Wade's having a great year this year, they belong there because it is their last year, and people want to see them in a game that doesn't matter, where they don't have to really try, and stuff like that. And they can kind of have fun.
It's a salute to what they've done for the game
Exactly.
and what they mean to the game. So I'm all for that. And not to say that it'll happen every year, because you're not going to have a Dwayne Wade or a Dirk retiring every year. But when that situation arises, I'm all for giving a special slot to those guys.
Maybe have Vince Carter join the game,
Right.
Something like that.
Right.
Yeah. So that'd be interesting. We do need to move on. If you're wondering, we are going past the 11 o'clock hour. If you're listening on OC Rock Radio, once again, we'll probably go to about 11:15 today. Late start, so we're going to go late ending. We're going to be moving into the NBA. It's a good transition. Predicting what's going to happen at the end of the season. 20 plus games to go for each team. We'll see who's going to make playoffs. Are Lakers going to make the playoffs? Is there another true contender besides the Warriors that has come out and shown themselves? We'll talk about all of that on the other side of this break. We are live on Facebook Live, and we are live on OC Rock Radio. This is the Cover 2 podcast.
That whoever the quarterback is, whoever the leader is, has to take some of the blame. Some of this blame does go to LeBron James. Remember, not just in the fact that he got hurt. I mean, there's things you can't control. But also, some of these players are the ones he selected.
I think I would just go to the post.
What's that?
I don't look at the comments.
I had it.
I pushed the comment button.
We can talk all we want about Magic and Rob Pelinka, but Magic and Rob Pelinka met for 3 hours the night he signed, and then these players were signed right afterwards. This was part of a plan, and I don't think that for the first time in his career, LeBron James had a hands-off approach to who was going to play alongside him when he had a chance to rebuild a team.
We're live here on the Cover 2 podcast on OC Rock Radio and live on Facebook Live. Thank you again for joining us. This is our final segment of the show, diving into some NBA talk. We're going to talk about the Lakers and if we think that they, will, get it together in these last 20 games or so and push themselves into the playoffs. They're currently, I believe, 3 or 3.5 games out right now. And some of the other teams as well, where we see the playoffs shaping up. It's an interesting year as to where in past years the playoff game was done exactly in the middle of the year. So there were 42 games played in the beginning of the year and 42 games after. Well, this year there were basically only 20 or 21 games left. So for the Lakers, that's kind of a bad thing because they don't have as many games to catch up. So they're basically in playoff mode now. Alex Silva mentioned that on break. And I think that's a good point that they have to have the mindset of we have to go in to win every single game, and they can't afford to lose them. Now, they're still missing Lonzo Ball with that ankle injury, and he's probably their best guard defender other than LeBron, obviously. But I want to get you guys' thoughts. I'll start with you, Nick. Where do you see this Laker team going? Do you think that they can go on a streak of wins, and do you think LeBron James has enough left in him to will this team to the playoffs?
You know, it's really tough to say because I don't. We were talking about this during the break. I don't know if LeBron's fully healthy, so I don't know if he's the same LeBron that we've seen. And you look at the standings right now. The teams ahead of them, the Sacramento Kings, a lot of young guys, but they play hard. The Clippers seem to, even though they trade away their players, they seem to kind of be the same team they were. Then you got the Spurs and the Jazz and the Rockets a little higher up in the standings. But even, Timberwolves, Dallas, and Pelicans are only 3 games back of the Lakers, too. So they got to be fighting with those teams, too. You can't be losing to those teams either, or they're going to go up in the standings. So it's going to be tough. My hunch is that LeBron gets to the playoffs, right? And if LeBron is healthy and doesn't get hurt again, he does get you to the playoffs. So if I had to put my money on him, I think they're getting to the playoffs. But it's hard for me to say the Clippers aren't going to make the playoffs either because they play really hard. Am I going to say Spurs aren't going to make the playoffs? That'd be crazy to say. The Jazz have should be all-star Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, of course, and the Rockets have Harden. So and a returning Clint Capella and Chris Paul, who's recovering from injury. So there's a lot at stake here, but the Lakers got a lot of teams to worry about before I start talking to them. They just need to win as many games as possible, obviously, but they cannot lose to bad teams. They need to beat all these teams. You lose to the Warriors, I get it. That's fine. You lose to the Bucks or Toronto, that's fine. They're not better than those teams. But you need to beat the Clippers. You need to beat the Sacramento Kings. You need to beat the Dallas Mavericks. You need to beat the Phoenix Suns. By the way, Phoenix Suns are essentially, they lose one more game, they're out of the playoffs, just to mention. So that's how bad the Suns have been this year, that they're out of the playoffs with one more loss, which is crazy. But you need to beat those teams. And in the past, the Lakers have lost to some horrible Atlanta a couple weeks ago. What's that? LeBron played 44 minutes and they lost to Atlanta. That just can't happen. So I think they'll get it back. I think LeBron, he's a freak of nature. He'll be able to take those 2 or 3 days that he just has off before the next game and rejuvenate. He'll do all the right things to get an extra rest, kind of the Tom Brady approach. And I think LeBron will be ready to go unless he's injured, which is different. You can't play as hard when you're injured, whether you're 34 or you're 24. Doesn't matter. But I do believe Lakers do need Lonzo Ball back as soon as possible as well. We were talking about that too. So.
All right. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think as the pessimist, even though I am a Lakers fan, I just don't think they make it. I think this is like kind of the humble pie season. Like you can't just bring in this big name acquisition, LeBron James, go to the playoffs because that's what he does no matter what. You have to look at the deeper rooted issues that are wrong with this team, and as you just don't have a very deep team right now. But there are these young guys, young talents that no one really wants to part with. But if these guys are on the team with LeBron James, and you're not making the playoffs, let's start moving these guys. Let's get, you know what I mean? So I think
so. So do you think?
What was the number we threw on the break? Was it they have to win 15 out of 20?
Basically. So I'm sorry. There's a correction.
Happen.
There's 25 games left in the season.
Yeah.
They basically need to win like 18 or 20 of those last
happen.
25.
Especially with Lonzo.
Do they have an easy schedule though, or who are they?
It's kind of up and down. So I'll just give you the first 5 games after the All-Star break. Home against Houston, at New Orleans, at Memphis.
Those all should be wins.
Home against New Orleans, home against Milwaukee.
So you have to win 3 out of 2.
3 out of 5.
So
3 out of 5, yeah.
Yeah, I think you beat New Orleans and Memphis. Houston and Milwaukee, I think, are the 2.
It's not that bad though because I can see the Clippers are on there,
Clippers,
Phoenix,
Bulls.
Yeah, the Bulls.
Yeah. But it's like you're playing Denver, you're playing Boston.
Boston, Denver.
You have Milwaukee twice.
Toronto, yeah.
So it's kind of up and down. To your point, as far as LeBron can't just come in and will a team to the playoffs.
Yeah.
I would disagree with you that in basketball, unlike basically any other sport, because there's only 5 guys on the court.
Of course.
If you have that one superstar, that can get you over the hump. Now, for a game or for a season, if you can do that for a couple games, I agree. I think the Lakers were very close to trading away those young pieces like you just mentioned.
Yeah.
They didn't, and I think that was more so because of the Pelicans, not because the Lakers weren't trying to. I will say this, LeBron James has been injured. He was hurt for over a month.
Yeah.
And I think that really put a damper in this team. I think if he were to stay healthy throughout the whole year, I think this team would... They were 4th place before LeBron got injured.
Crazy.
And they took themselves out of the playoffs then. So I think that tells you what a superstar of LeBron James' caliber can do for a team. So, listen, here's the thing. LeBron James, if they miss the playoffs this year, first time that he's ever missed the playoffs since his rookie year.
Oh.
Right? A lot of people are going to sit here and say that doesn't matter. You know, he moved to the Western Conference. He wanted a tougher route to the playoffs, and this is definitely a tougher route. Because if he was in the East, with their record, they would probably be like 7th or 8th. I mean, they would be in the playoffs right now if they were in the East, right?
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be probably as hard of a route having to go through Houston or Golden State in the playoffs to get where you want to go. Now, the East has gotten better with Milwaukee, with Toronto, with Philly, right? So it's not like they're the cupcake conference anymore. But I think this comes down to, in my opinion, LeBron James going in front of the team and saying, like, how bad do you guys want it? Because at this point, I don't care if you guys are rookies. I don't care that you guys have only been in the league 2-3 years. I don't care that you've never been in the playoffs in your career. Like, you guys are grown professionals. Kyle Kuzma, you can play. Brandon Ingram, you can ball. Lonzo Ball, when you come back, we know, like, the type of player you can be if you fit into our system, right? So you have Josh Hart. You have complementary players that I think are good enough to get LeBron James back into the playoffs.
Yes.
So I think it can happen. I really think it's about the young guys. I don't think it's about LeBron, because I think we all know where LeBron James' mindset is. We know that he wants to get back to the playoffs, and we know that he can win. I'm not so sure. Now, I'm not trying to throw shade at these young guys. I don't know if that's exactly where their mindset is. They just came off of, thinking about getting traded, right?
Yeah,
we saw the game in Indianapolis a couple weeks ago where they got blown out right before the trade deadline and listen, now that's just being human. If my name was being thrown out on the trade block, I would probably be a little skeptical, and I probably wouldn't be totally focused on basketball. But now that that's over with, we'll really see where these guys' heads are at. Are you guys all in with the Lakers, and do you want to get to the playoffs? Or are you guys just a bunch of young rookies basically who need more time to develop?
No, it's interesting. Throw some stats out here on you guys. This is another thing the Lakers need to fix. Their points per game to opponents' points per game is in the minus. Okay, that's one of 4 teams in the Western Conference there in the minus. The other teams, the Kings, who are right above them, so similar, and then Memphis and Phoenix. Okay, the Eastern Conference, it's everybody that's not in the top 5 of the standings. So you're right. If they were in the Eastern Conference, they'd make the playoffs for sure. They'd be in the playoffs, but they're not. And that was the choice that LeBron James made. The points per game overall is way higher in the Western Conference too, so you have to score more overall. So they're going to need to fix that kind of stuff. You can't be one of the worst teams in the league giving up points and be making the playoffs. The objective of basketball is to play defense and offense. And if you're playing less offense than defense, you're probably not going to make the playoffs, right? Because you're not going to score as much. So they need to fix that for sure. Because every one of the playoff teams is at least +1 as far as the differential. Now, that might not seem that much, but that means you're winning every game. If you were just to do a point statistic thing, you'd win every game. So, they need to fix that. Any last thoughts on the Lakers? But I do want to go into which teams we kind of we think are going to go further in the playoffs this year. Who we think are legitimate contenders. But is it Lonzo? Is it LeBron? Let me just get your two guys' choice. What is the bigger factor? Lonzo coming back, or LeBron playing better? Maybe.
I think it's to agree with you, I think it's more on the younger guys. LeBron, I think, is a constant. I think, and my point earlier is that it shows the fact that he's there and he's a constant, and they're still not competing where they are. And you're right that he did miss the month, but they're not competing, as the way they were. It shows that the young guys are the ones that need to buy in, and the ones that need to be professionals, put the drama they've had all season with the sheesh and all the wine, LeBron, put all that behind, all the trade rumors, and be like, hey, we have this goal in front of us, if we can go get it. I just think they can.
This team, it comes down in watching. Now, I haven't been able to watch all of their games this season like I normally do as a big Laker fan. So I only watch them when they're on ESPN or nationally televised games. The Lakers do well when they're in transition, when they can get out and run. And they even play better defense when they do that. Like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But anyways, when they can get out and run, when LeBron James is on the fast break, a 3-on-2, first of all, you ain't stopping LeBron James, right? 6'10", 6'11", 260, 280, whatever he is. You ain't stopping that train coming through, right? You have Brandon Ingram on one side, Kyle Kuzma on another side. You have Lonzo Ball, who's a great passer. When they're in a fast-paced offense, I think they just tend to play a little better. But they only do that when it seems like they're kind of in a rhythm, right? When the guys want to play hard, when they want to get up and run up and down. When they're sluggish, and I hate to harp on the young guys, but I just think it comes down to them. How bad do you guys want it, right? Because this is your first opportunity, basically, to get into the playoffs. And when you get into the playoffs and you have LeBron James,
it's a whole other story. Anything
can happen. Now, are they going to beat the Warriors? Probably not. Can they beat Houston? Maybe. With LeBron? Maybe. Yeah. We've seen Houston choke in the playoffs the last couple of years. Yeah. So, like I said, these guys need to buy in. I think they need to play a little bit faster and get out on the break and not play such half court, because when this Lakers team plays half court, they get stagnant. And I think it goes back to the same thing when Kobe was playing. When you have such a great player on your team, it's very easy as a complimentary player to sit there and say, take it. Do your thing, right? Just like make something happen, right? And as a defense, all they have to do is zone in on one guy. Brandon Ingram, they don't really have a prolific three-point shooter. So it's not like, LeBron can drive to the basket and dish and expect Kyle Kuzma or Brandon Ingram or Josh Hart to consistently knock down the three. So if they're playing at a faster pace and more guys are getting involved, it's boosting their confidence. And I think that's just better overall for them as a whole.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then, to go to your point, once you get into the playoffs, once you get on the dance floor, you might dance with the prettiest girl. You don't know what's going to happen. Quick shout out to Kaylee McLean, the prettiest girl that I know.
Hey, you got
in case you're still listening.
Doing Laker talk.
Yeah. I think I'm the baseball guy. I'm not going to contribute projectively to the
I love it.
All right.
No, but so let's move on to who we think is going to make the playoffs. It's not like I'll compare it to the MLB or the NFL where there's there's a bunch of teams where you can see, it's like the Warriors, and then there's a bunch of other teams that could, right? But it's like the Warriors should win it, and then everybody else has a chance. So looking at the Eastern Conference, the way the Eastern Conference standings look, there's 5 teams. It's the Bucks, Raptors, Pacers, Celtics, and 76ers in that order. And then there's a 7-game drop-off, where then it's the Nets, Hornets, Pistons, Heat, Magic, all fighting for a spot. But the Nets, who are in 6th place, are 7 games back of Philadelphia.
They're basically at 500.
Yeah, and Indiana just lost. They lost Victor Oladipo, so that record shows when they had him, they likely will end up as the 5th seed. But so in the Eastern Conference, real quick, because we only have about 8-7 minutes to go in the whole podcast, I see it more as a 4-team race. Yeah, I think any of the 4 teams could actually get to the finals, to be honest. I think 76ers are the most stacked as far as their starting lineup goes in depth. But what do you guys think? Who do you think is the headlining team in the Eastern Conference that you really think is prime? You had to put your money on it. Is prime to go to the NBA Finals?
Milwaukee. And at the beginning of the year, would I have ever said that? No, I probably would be slapping myself right now if I ever said Milwaukee at the beginning of the year. Yeah. The Celtics, I don't think they are playing as a team.
No, they're not.
And they've even had some players come out and say that. Now, listen, Kyrie Irving has just been dealing with a knee issue that he just can't get over with, right? He plays in one game, then he has to sit out the next. And they're just too inconsistent. The thing is, if you look on paper, you got Jason Tatum, you got Marcus Smart. They have the pieces and the talent. I just don't think they're playing well enough. And going into the postseason, you want to have momentum. Right now, this team doesn't have it. And if you can't trust that your best player and Kyrie Irving is going to consistently be there, I don't think that they can win a 7-game series with the Sixers or Milwaukee or even, the Pacers or anything like that. So for that reason, the Celtics are out. And I'm catapulting Milwaukee up there. I think the next best team is the Sixers because of the talent that they have. You have Embiid, you have Simmons, you have J.J. Redick, who is a sharpshooter, right? And then obviously you have who they just traded for, Tobias Harris. And I'm forgetting about Jimmy Butler.
Okay.
Right?
I was like, they did trade for him.
And they traded for Jimmy Butler. Right? So those pieces right there, that should get them to the Eastern Conference Finals and to the NBA Finals. I think Milwaukee's just playing the best basketball right now. Now, they may not have a better lineup than the Sixers, but I think their camaraderie, the way that they're playing, the way that they share the ball, even though Giannis is the star on that team, he shares the ball, and he gets other guys involved. It's not just about him. And I'm not saying that the Sixers do that, but I like I said, I think that the way that the Bucks play, I think that translates to the postseason when the game slows down a little bit. It becomes a little more defensive-minded. You're not going to see 110, 120-point scoring games. You're going to see more than 92 to 98 type of games, and I think that fits more of Milwaukee's strategy. So that's probably why I catapult them into that number one spot.
Yeah, no, it's well, what's your thoughts on it?
I was going to say, I'm voting with the 76ers. I think, because right now they have at the 5th, let's say the season ended right now, right? They're going to be playing...
They're 5th seed, but they're like one game back of being in the 3rd seed.
Yeah.
So it's not, they're going to end up probably playing... what you want to do is you
might play Boston, is what I think it could be that first round.
Well, you could... Here's the... You're more than likely... You want to be a top 3 seed because...
that drop off.
You're playing the Nets, Hornets, Pistons, Magic, or Heat. I mean, that's a win. You're winning that series.
Yeah.
So
build that momentum.
Exactly. So I think Indiana will start to lower, although they have a pretty solid team. I don't think they're going to wither too much. They'll wither to the 5th seed. But you want to battle with the Celtics and the Raptors for that 3rd seed or even 2nd seed because you want to play one of these horrible teams. Yeah. One of these essential non-playoff teams in the playoff. Like I said, if they did the whole NBA, it'd probably be the Kings and the Lakers and maybe one Eastern team in the playoffs instead of the Nets and Hornets and Pistons, but that's not the way it is. So East, take advantage of it, take a series off. Not to say that truly, but take a series off. I'm going to get dark horse to Toronto because of Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard's won a Finals MVP before. I think, we obviously have Kyle Lowry, who has notoriously been terrible in the playoffs. But I think Kawhi Leonard's just different. And I could see them sneaking into the finals with Kawhi Leonard, maybe getting a little favor from potentially the scheduling in the playoffs as well, having to not face some of the harder teams as well, maybe avoiding the 76ers or Celtics in the second round, something like that could get them eliminated quicker. But I think as long as Kawhi Leonard's healthy, I think they could make the Eastern Conference. I like Milwaukee too. Chris Middleton, I think, has played great this year for them too.
First time All-Star.
Yeah, first time All-Star, and he did well in the All-Star game too. Made a lot of 3-pointers. But Toronto they're my team to get in these. And then to the West, Golden State. I think we all agree they're the top seed. Who else do we put up there? You have the Nuggets. Oklahoma City, who's Paul George is playing great for them. The Trailblazers, and then you kind of have Houston, who's a lot of games back in first place, but they're kind of starting to play like the Rockets we expected. And then of course you have the Lakers factor with LeBron James. So who do we think is the biggest test potentially for Golden State? The team that has the best chance at beating the Golden State Warriors, because we're not going to come out here and say that the Portland Trailblazers are going to the finals. Okay, who has the best chance at beating Golden State? Because Golden State's going to the finals unless we can come up with a legitimate reason why another team should. So
I'm going to go with OKC. I think they have enough of the talent around. They have enough big names on the roster that have playoff experience, have done stuff in the Houston, they have James Harden, who's always an offensive juggernaut, but he never shows up in the playoffs, and that's I can't bet on him to do it this year. I got a feeling.
He missed 8. He was 1 for 15 one of the playoff games.
He had a laughable appearance. Yeah. So I think I like OKC. Also, too, I think the NBA wants that. That's a better storyline. KD versus Russell Westbrook. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to be a good Western Conference final. It just feels like that's where the plot line is going.
And could you see Oklahoma City beating Golden State?
That's I don't know. I mean, Russell Westbrook gets motivated. That's the interesting thing. I don't know.
I see you shaking your head over there, Jerry. It's tough.
I just don't. I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate. I want to get the viewers to watch the game. Okay?
No, exactly. I'll give my take on this. Obviously,
NBA loves you for that.
Obviously, with LeBron, you never know. I think this cast of characters, that's always that's a thing out there. I don't even know if they'll make the playoffs though, so I'm not going to even talk about them. Houston, they don't have enough defense and they don't have enough depth. I don't think they have. I think they might get there, but I think they'd get swept by Golden State. I don't think they do that. And then it goes down to Denver and Oklahoma City, and you look at Denver. Denver's 25-4 at home. So they're going to grab a game or two at home even against Golden State potentially. Okay? So that's a factor. Let's say they get the number 1 seed. They are only 2 games back at Golden State. That could be a factor if they have home field advantage. You never know. They steal 1 Golden State. They win 2 at home. Then there's a chance for a Game 7. You're booking a Game 7 right there where you're winning the series. So Game 7 at home in Denver, altitude, all that stuff. You never know. So I'm going to go with Denver on this one. I think Oklahoma City's great too. It's just I'm not picking 2 stars over 4. I think Denver's got a very good team. It seems like everybody they bring off the bench is good. Jokic is like first in every category, which is crazy too. MVP candidate. And I just think Denver, with that home statistic, I think if they were to steal a game Golden State, take 2 games at home, you give yourself a chance right there. And that's the way they can do it. And because they've been so good at home with that altitude factor, that's a chance. Denver's you don't have teams like that usually in the playoffs that high seeded with the altitude factor. You know Denver with the Denver Broncos as well. I think that could possibly be a team that could beat them in the playoffs. I'm going on a limb. I don't really think anybody could.
Should they make the 3-point line farther in the Denver Nuggets?
I think they should. Golden State has to shoot from the half-court line in order to not make the finals. Jared, what's your thought? I think I know what you're going to say, but
I don't trust Denver, man. I don't. I'm looking at their team right now, and you're right. They have a very well-rounded team. To add to your point, I'm looking at them right now, though, and the only 2 guys that I can think of that have been to the playoffs are Isaiah Thomas, who's just coming off of, I believe last week was his first game.
Plays hard, though.
Right. Plays hard, okay. Paul Millsap.
Dismissed.
Completely. And Paul Millsap.
He plays hard, too.
Those are the only 2 guys that I can think. Mason Plumlee, maybe, who have even been to the playoffs. Who've been to the playoffs.
You don't get a reach on Mason Plumlee, though.
I'm reaching because
I don't. Was he the one that blocked LeBron earlier this year?
I think so.
Yeah.
But like I don't see the veteran experience in the playoffs, and I think that does mean something for such a young team like this. Like they've been playing great all year long, and I get what you're saying about when they play at home, the altitude, all that. They have the crowd behind them. They have a really good fan base. But I think the playoffs are a different beast, and in a 7-game series, even against OKC. With Westbrook and Paul George and the guys that they have, I don't know in a 7-game series that they would be able to outlast a team, right? They shoot the 3 very well, they pass the ball very well, but I don't have the confidence in them because I haven't seen them do it. That's why I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm just saying I prefer a Houston or an OKC that I've seen do it before, who has the experience, and I think can get the job done. I won't be surprised if Denver does it, but until they do, I'm not going to fall in their bandwagon.
No, it's hard to book. I'm not even saying Denver would win it. I'm just saying you look at those factors and how well they've been at home. I just think that's something you have to take into consideration, along with the fact that a lot of those bench players are younger and they might not be used to playing in that altitude. And the stars probably could get over it, but it's those guys there's no bench help and stuff like that.
Well, let's put it this way. I'll give Denver the credit in this sense. And the NBA, a lot of times, it's how do teams become good, right? You trade for an all-star player, or you have like a top 5 pick.
Yeah.
Because in reality, it doesn't matter if you're in the first round, but you're pick 20. It's probably not going to do anything for you, right?
It's not the NFL, yeah.
This Denver Nuggets team hasn't. It's not like they've traded for Anthony Davis or Kawhi Leonard or any of these superstar players, right? Jamal Murray has kind of come out of nowhere. Nikola Jokic, he's a very good player. Paul Millsap is still a good player, but he's a little bit older, long in the tooth. This team, and I think that's why I'm so surprised, is because I don't think anyone expected this team with this group to play so well. So
it's a very random. I mean, like I honestly didn't know who Malik Beasley or Torrey Craig was before the season.
Every time I see Beasley, I just think of Michael Beasley.
Yeah, Michael Beasley just signed in China, by the way.
That just shows you he went from the Lakers to China. The Lakers are dumb
and Clippers
for
and
keeping
China,
him.
But yeah.
The Clippers were at least smart enough to buy him out and say, bye-bye, you're not going to play a game for us. The Lakers had him on the roster for the whole first half of the season.
He was getting minutes.
And he was getting minutes. Yeah, so, listen, I love Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka.
Do the Lakers still have a chance to get a top 3 pick again this year? Is that something that happens if they don't make the playoffs?
Oh, my gosh, man. I don't know what they're doing with stuff. I love him, man.
So I think, to your point, the Denver Nuggets, there's a formula to where they could beat the Warriors. There's a there is a
possibility.
In what's the guy from the Avengers who can see the future? Like, there's of all the possible outcomes, there's like a few where the Nuggets win it. The Lakers, there's none. It is a Thanos wins every time.
Hey, wait, what is Lonzo going to outplay Steph in 4 games?
My face
like,
no
come
way.
on. Rondo, I guess, would.
That's never going to happen. Not only is it never going to happen, if it does happen, I'm turning off all my social media because LeVar Ball would come out and just kill
We'd have to have him on the show at that point.
I'm telling you, he would.
Surprise guest.
He would go
Chino
anywhere.
Hills. Right?
He would go anywhere. So that's not going to happen. On the slight chance it does, just be prepared. I'm just telling you right now.
You'd rather have Denver win.
I'd rather have Denver win.
Yeah, okay.
Don't have me do dishes.
No, nothing. I don't want to hear it. We're postponing the show.
Yeah. No Cover 2 podcast.
Yeah, no Cover 2 podcast until the LeVar Ball
You
stops.
make like the pinky bet, like the part of my team did.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Exactly. All right, there you go. You hear the music right there if you're listening on OC Rock Radio and if you're listening on YouTube. Fun show, guys. Welcome again to Alex Silva.
Thanks for coming on, of course.
So much fun.
Absolutely. Baseball guru. But yeah, that's it for us. Next week, hopefully Harper signs. Combine starting soon for the NFL. And this NBA season will have more and more storylines to go on. So for Nick Neenan,
I'm Jared Smith.
I'm Alex Silva.
This has been the Cover 2 podcast on OC Rock Radio and Facebook Live.